Hi, Rhett. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am great. Sorry, I was trying to get this to go through my headphones. Typical.
Yeah.
Might help if I turn my headphones on.
Well, I can hear you. And
Okay,
so
there we
it's
go.
just you and I.
Perfect. Oh, okay.
So we're gonna
I
probably, let's see, give it another minute, see if anybody joins. I'm gonna go look at the list of people who've registered and see what, how many people. Okay. Today's the 29th. Oh, we have one other person registered. We don't have the turnout for the service provider training track is not as not as much as our end user training. Of course, not everybody is a external service provider, MSP. So if it's just going to be United, that's great because then you get more one-on-one training. So,
cool.
Rhett, what services does your company provide?
So I disclaimer, I am very new, but we basically bring our clients into a FedRAMP enclave and we provide them basically uh, CMMC services, I guess.
Mhm.
We give them all their documentation and stuff so they can pass a CMMC assessment.
Okay. And what company are you with?
I'm with Beryllium, also known
Oh,
as
okay,
Quick
cool.
Track. Yeah, yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Well, let's get started here. So have you had much time to play around in FutureFeed at all?
I have not. I've been given access to it and been told to click around, but that is it.
Okay. All right. And so you're just going to be using FutureFeed for your clients' work. You're not, are you also managing your own Brillium's, compliance package in FutureFeed, or is
Mm,
someone else responsible for that?
Someone else is responsible for that. For me, it would be just for the clients.
Okay, cool. All right, I will share my screen. And this is service provider training number one, session number one. Gotta get this right. Yeah, session number one. So here's FutureFeed, and today we're going to cover the dashboard area, start, people, tools, and documents, and then I'm going to stop here. And then in training number two, I cover assessing and documenting your assessments in FutureFeed, system security plan, review, approval, and output, and then managing your system poem, as well as talk about the deliverables. So I always tell folks that after today, you know, I'm a hands-on learner. So if you, take what you learned today and go practice um, somewhere in an environment, then when you're ready, schedule that second session of training and then learn the app in sections and in parts. Um, First thing I could probably get you access to is, do you happen to have access to Sample Company?
I do not, but I do have a sample company in here full of data, just not particularly sample company.
Sample, oh, okay. Would you like access to this Sample Company? It's got a lot of data
Yeah,
in
sure.
here, but
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
all, fake data. But, as you're learning the tool, you can play around in this environment and you don't have to worry about reverting anything, or, if you accidentally do something inaccurate, just don't worry about even changing it in here.
Yeah, sure. I'll take the data.
Okay, and could you give me your email address? Did I lose you? Hold on. What's going on? Can you hear me?
Hey, sorry you were cut out there for a second.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I was asking for your email address.
Absolutely. Let me grab it because I don't even have it memorized yet. There you go.
Ugh, I'm sorry. I keep clicking on the wrong thing because I'm not used to Zoom yet. All right. Hmm. Okay, so I give you 3 months access to this environment so you can do all the hands-on training and learning in here.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. In FutureFeed, you have this dashboards area. When you log into FutureFeed and you yourself, you'll probably have access to multiple clients' environments. And so when you log in, this will be what you see. Each one of these is a separate compliance boundary or assessment scope, right? Each one of your clients would have one package, or if they're a larger client, they would have more than one. Then when you log into an actual environment, you are in the dashboard area of FutureFeed. And excuse me, I'm gonna lose my voice today.
Oh no.
Mm.
I've had that
So,
happen before.
yes, a lot of speaking these past couple weeks.
Oh.
All right, so the dashboard, when you click on the dashboard, you're gonna first see this nice, graphical representation of the client's overall compliance status for whatever framework you're currently in. So up here at the top is where you can change between frameworks. Let's say you have a client that is also implementing 853 for whatever reason, they would purchase, the add-on of the 853 framework, and then up here at the top is where they could switch between NIST 171 and NIST 853. So here's a look of a level 1, and then if I want to go back to my level 2 environment, all of the data that gets shown is going to change. It's semi-interactive, so you can drill down to the assessment objective level and actually jump directly to the requirement. I'm in 374 right now, and I could go to the actual control requirement by clicking one of these two buttons here. Also in your dashboard area is where you have where you can see all of the responsibilities you have assigned to you in your individual responsibilities page. Okay, so here's everything I have assigned to me in this fake environment. If I had any of the requirements, like AC 311, if that was assigned to me, it'd show up under the controls. If I had any tools up here, any technology or assets that have been assigned to me, they would show up here. Here's my security documentation that's assigned to me, and you can filter by the different RACI objectives. Then if I want to see all the tasks I have, there's my tasks, and that would be my poems that get assigned to me. If you want to see what your team members have assigned to them, then you would click on Teams, you would just find that individual, and now I'm viewing James's responsibilities. Okay. This is Assessment Prep Center. This is for your clients who, or, when you work with your client and you're going to go into that, like an official assessment cycle, maybe an annual internal assessment or, an actual external assessment with the C3PAO. Here is where they would be able to assign different sections of FutureFeed to an individual for the purpose of reviewing and approving the information that's in that page of FutureFeed. So over here under the subway stops, we call them subway stops. So every page in FutureFeed is a subway stop. How they designed the interface up here on the top is, we refer to this as our subway line, and you're working left to right to populate FutureFeed, stopping at every stop along the way. So that's what a subway stop is. And then all of these, like if I go to contract manager here, right now it's assigned to Raven. If I click on that, it's going to bring me to the contract manager page in FutureFeed. Up here, I have it assigned to Raven. So this compliance review box here, every page has this. This directly relates to that assessment prep center page listing. So here I'll show you, I'm going to change it to Aaron. If I go back to my assessment prep center, then under contract manager, it's now Aaron. I could also change it here too. But I'm just trying to show you that field on every page relates to this. It's just a nice way to see all of the pages in one listing and see who's been assigned as, responsible for reviewing and maintaining that page and approving that page.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, you'd want to probably set some sort of, at least run through this with your clients right before that external third party assessment, right? Because the information in all of these pages is being used to populate and build that system security plan. And so if it's inaccurate, the SSP is going to be inaccurate. That's for the review, assessment prep center reviews. And then we also have a critical dates page. So this is where you would work with your client to just at a high level set some overall dates for obtaining a CMMC certification, engaging the C3PAO, if they have any poems from the assessment, tracking how long they have to remediate those. So it's just project management page specific to CMMC.
Nice. It's good to have that.
The view snapshot, or so when I click this, is this a radial button or a radio button? I think it's radial, right? I'm not sure. But when I click that, what's happening is FutureFeed's taking a snapshot of my system security plan. So it's essentially generating me an SSP and archiving it. So now here I can see, hopefully as you work with your client through the process, their scores improving, right? So you would see, pre-assessment, and maybe I was at a -100, and now I'm engaging a C3PAO. Hopefully I'm at a +110 or close to it. So it's, you get to see that progress, and you can always view the snapshot of the system security plan for that phase. So that's the dashboard. I guess from your perspective as a service provider, I'm not sure you'd have how your company is handling like communications for your clients. If you're doing a lot of that communication to your clients in FutureFeed, I'd say that's great, because then FutureFeed's going to have all that, user activity, all those communication logs. And you know, I would probably expect that someone would be reviewing the responsibilities, right? And keeping track of that client's responsibilities, or you would at least have to educate your clients where they can locate and find the responsibilities that they have assigned to them.
Okay.
Your clients, though, you know, they're welcome to attend the end user training sessions. All right, so start here. This is hovering over the item. We got company information, scope, which is some system information, a place to identify the contracts your client has, a place to identify for this one compliance boundary, does it contain FCI and CUI, and then some settings related to the platform. So under company info here, pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I have to cover much here. It's just having your client fill out this information. Let's see. One thing I want to point out is that when you see things with an asterisk, so that field is going to be, that information that you put there is going to be shown in your system security plan.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Risk appetite, this is identifying your client's, you know, risk approach. And where this information comes into play is when you're working with them to prioritize remediation efforts for poem items, then you know, would factor in the risk appetite. Every page has the getting started guides. So I'm in the corporate data page. If I clicked on this, I'm going to see corporate data. So what information is being captured, why we're capturing it. It talks about the risk appetite, some tips and tricks. So we don't have like one giant user manual. The pages, so if I click on scope here, the getting started guides is going to be specific to the scope page.
Yeah, I think that's a lot better than one giant manual. So that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yep, and it's right there at a click of a button. Um, company description. Again, pretty self-explanatory, more about the company. Describe the company. Down here, place to document your IT or cybersecurity budget, your client's cybersecurity budget, and your client's cybersecurity insurance if they hold it. And what does it cover? Locations, this is an important area because here's where you start defining your assessment scope. So the client, you know, needs to define their boundary or the assessment scope, and that's going to include locations, um, you know, physical locations, even cloud has physical locations, but for here, they're just identifying their locations, their physical locations. If they're all cloud, then you wouldn't have any physical locations. And under tools, there's where you would identify external service providers or cloud environments here. So if I go back, locations, just click on new location, fill out the information. After they create an entry, then they'll want to open up that location inventory item and then fill out all this metadata here as much as possible. I'm going to go over connect, compliance, task assignments, and evidence, these 4 important fields here in a little bit when I'm talking about technology, because it just makes for a better example. But all throughout FutureFeed, we're using the RACI model. Okay, R is for responsible, A accountable, C consulted, I informed. So here for this location, who's responsible for, you know, maintaining that location's security, implementing it, overseeing it, all that good stuff. To archive things, up here, you'd open up the inventory item, and then in the right of the page, there's this little, I guess it kind of looks like a download, but you're archiving. So if you wanted to delete a location entry, you would be archiving it. All right. So I
And I'm
refer,
assuming you could bring, oh, sorry.
yep, no, go ahead.
And I'm assuming you could bring that back, like there's a recycle bin or somewhere for
Yeah.
archiving stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
And each one of these, so I refer to these as inventory items. So here's these are location inventory items. Up in tools, these are tool inventory items, technology assets, and then documents, you have also document inventory items. So I just wanted to show you that because I say it a lot. And so all the inventory items though have kind of the same look. So here's a document inventory item and you see it has the same overview, connect, compliance, task, evidence, technology, slightly different, but slightly, few fields are different, but overall same look. So that's an inventory item. Maintenance and ownership, this is where they are identifying at a high level who maintains and owns the hardware, who maintains and owns the software. If you want an example on how to write that up, or your clients want an example, if you click on the Getting Started guide under the compliance implications, there's an example here.
That is so useful to have.
Yes. A lot of our end users need that kind of helpful guidance. So these getting started guides are fairly new. They were implemented with the latest big release. So about a month old now. And we are working on adding, if we get a lot of help desk tickets on like one topic, then that tells me, hey, I need to put that information in the app somewhere. So we're always updating those and improving them. All right, so that's company info. Then scope. So here's where you're starting to find the system. So your clients need to give their system, a system name, a unique identifier. In here, we have a place for you to identify the system type. Are they implementing the NIST 171 requirements everywhere in their network? So that's an enterprise-wide implementation, or are they just creating a little segment on their, network, and then we're looking at a enclave. Organizational unit is just when you have larger companies and they have different lines of business and maybe only one or two lines of business or departments, units actually do DIB contract work. Describe the system boundary. Here, the only thing that should, as recommendation or guidance, confidentiality rating should stay at a moderate or high. Don't put it down to a low for CMMC purposes. It would be a moderate, and you can move it up to a high, but your clients can choose their own integrity and availability rating. Contracts. So for your clients, this is where they're going to log their cage code or cage codes and delete those. Any contracts. So what are the current contracts that they have? And the important part down here, these check boxes, what clauses are present in those contracts that are driving the need for either a level 1 or a level 2. I think this is great information. Like, I'm not sure when you get brought in, but when I was doing consulting, most companies that I work for, they needed help with scoping. And they needed, so, the whole scoping activity really starts with identifying the contracts that are bringing FCI and CUI into your environment. So this page could help with that scoping discussion, as well as, there's a requirement AC313 where you have to define your authorized CUI flow, data flow. And so you could always reference this section of FutureFeed, as part of that implementation narrative, and here's where you're defining for your clients, here's where they are defining where that data first is ingested into their environment. All right, data inventory. So here, if it's just a level 1 environment, FCI, we have a place for you to identify what assets are storing, processing, or transmitting FCI data. It's just toggling things on or off. However, this is going to be blank for your clients because they will have to go up under tools and make all those entries for the assets. Then after they make the entries for the technology, the assets they have, they'll come back to this FCI page and then identify the specific assets in their boundary that are storing, processing, or transmitting FCI. The CUI data inventory. So if this environment has CUI, what CUI is it handling? So these are all NARA. These are all the CUI categories from NARA, and they're just hyperlinked to the NARA page.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. So looks like I need to get in here and clear some of this out because I keep doing this example and all these are filled out. But I'll use let's do this water assessment. So let's say
All
you
right.
have a client that has CUI water assessments. It's such a category, which
Right.
is a basic CUI category. So click on the link to find out if it's specified or basic. And here it's basic, so I check that box, right? And so right now I'm just saying that somewhere in this environment, water assessment CUI basic is being stored, processed, or transmitted. If I want to get more granular with defining that data flow, then I can associate some assets with this CUI category. And then when you do that, this wrench shows up. So here I've said that this endpoint protection asset is storing, processing, or transmitting vulnerability information. How you get that wrench to show up is you have to, in the tools, so I'm going to go to the tool. I'm going to find my tool. Here's a database. Under compliance, if it's a CUI asset, I'll be able to click on this CUI icon and then check that box, water assessment basic. So now if I go back, I'm going to see that there's a wrench there here, and it's my database. So now I'm again AC313 where you have to define the flow. Here I'm saying that my Linux database is storing, processing, or transmitting CUI basic water assessment data. Okay, so it's up to you on how granular you want to get with your clients, what you want them to do. Checking the box is fine, but if they want to get in more detail, then you can make that association. Sensitive data. So here's just, we have some clients that wanted to be able to track and identify some other information like proprietary information. Maybe they have employee PII information in this environment. So they wanted to be able to identify that type of data as being stored, processed, and transmitted in this environment for whatever reason. And so we gave them a place to do that. And that's the sensitive data. If you happen to have a client that wants to do that, then they should scroll to the bottom and they would create their own category of data. Right? Okay. Setting. Oh, yep. Go
So
ahead.
I just put an example of, oh, okay, I see it at the very bottom. Awesome.
Oh, yep.
I
Scroll.
just
Wait.
tried it out. So cool. Yeah, it works.
All right. Settings. You can integrate with a ticketing system. Just check the box, drop that support at email in there for your ticketing system. A tip here is that you could put any email in there. So it doesn't have to be a ticketing system. If maybe you're working with a client, they don't have a ticketing system, but they maybe have some management folks that want to get updates on poem items. Because when you enable this, you're able to send out notifications from FutureFeed on poem actions and poem projects. So if you have a client who has a management team, I've seen it where they'll create like a shared inbox and then put that email here so they can send out those poem notifications to that management team who has access to that shared inbox. So just a little trick there. Poem goal. Oh, actually, let me show you quick where this shows up. So now that we have it enabled, if I go into my system poem, which is called your future feed. In future feed, it's your future feed poem. Right here off to the right, this email to ticket system, it's blue, I can click on it. So here I would be sending an update on this poem item related to 311, and I can make some notes,
Okay.
and then hit send. And I've sent an email to that ticket system or that email. If you don't have that enabled, then it's just grayed out. So in FutureFeed, when a poem is created, it will have a default due date. So whatever you want that default due date to be, that's how you control it here. If I made a poem today, then the due date is going to be 2 quarters out. And just have your client set what they want to work toward here. Impact, effort, and cost. This was added specifically for our service providers. Like if you're working with 5 clients, well, that's 10 clients, and you got a large client, then you got a small client, a medium client. Everybody's going to have different impact, effort, and cost ratings. So a cost item for a small client, a low cost item may be $500, whereas a low cost item for one of your larger clients may be like $5,000. Okay. So here you would just work with that client and set impact, effort, and cost. What does that scale look like for them? And then everybody who's working with that client then would be able to reference back to this scale. This information becomes important when they're working in their system poem and they're trying to prioritize remediation effort, right? And so I used to do consulting, and at one point I think I had like 22 clients, and it was really hard for me to keep some of the information straight. I'm like, oh yeah, it's this client, not that client. So this is just helpful when working on projects. To reference then this scale after it gets set, you can, in the top right here, there's this ruler, so you can reference that scale. No, it does take a minute to update. So right now it's still saying 500, even though I changed it to 1,000. But if I probably should be able to refresh the page now, and it should take, yeah. So refresh it, also give it a couple minutes, and then it will update.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so that's
Yep,
the
I see the
start
update. Cool.
there. And then people. So people, any system administrators for that client's environment will be able to create user accounts. If you're not a system administrator, you can see the listing of users, but you can't create or delete any user accounts. So here, if you want to create an account, it's under people, just add user, employee, third party, and we did release recently an assessor role. So if you have any external assessors that would like access to their environment for the purpose of conducting their assessment and seeing their evidence, reviewing their SSP, you'd use the assessor role. Any questions about user accounts, I guess?
No, this has been great so far.
Okay. All right, so managing roles. So here's where you want to work with your client to identify the security related roles. I guess I shouldn't say, well, kind of makes sense, but any role, think about any role that's going to have some responsibility with implementing any of the NIST 800-171 requirements. So HR, training department, facility, security, all those roles, you'd make them here. We do have a couple default roles for our clients to fill out, but if they don't, like, let's say they don't have an IT system owner per se, they could just make that role as not applicable. These roles here, these default roles though, they do show up in this system security plan, unless you make one not applicable. Okay.
All right.
And the additional roles, so they would create any other roles that they need. Default accountable role. So in FutureFeed, if you create a poem item, if you create any of those inventory items I was talking about, a document inventory item, a technology inventory item, whoever you set here as default accountable, then that inventory item or that poem is going to have whoever you set here, that person is going to be the accountable person in the RACI model. Okay. So, you don't have to set it, but I would recommend working with your client to set it. And it should be maybe a person that is kind of responsible for overall just managing the compliance efforts. So that way, if they see something got assigned to them as the accountable, that means someone inside that FutureFeed environment created a poem item or created an inventory item and forgot to then identify the correct accountable person. This person then would see that and, work with them and, hey, go update this item to get it assigned to the right person.
Cool.
Add role to add role is pretty self-explanatory. So manage teams here again. Think about everybody who is going to have some responsibility with implementing 800-171. What are those teams? And then just work with your client to have them create their teams. You as the service provider would also probably create a team entry for your service provider team. That way, you can get items assigned to you in FutureFeed and they know who to contact. Your clients know who to contact because you'll clearly be identified as I would say the consulted, in the RACI model, RACI, the C is for consulted. And so if you created a team or even a role for yourself, you would probably want to identify you as the consulted, if that's what, if you're working with them to provide consulting services as well. All right, so this populate here that we have, what we did is we read through the CMMC documentation. Get there and go to this level 2 assessment guide. So in here, if I go to one of these controls, let's do that one. Unsuccessful logon attempts. Under the potential assessment method, under interview, it says interview personnel with information security related responsibilities, system developers, or system or network administrators. Okay, so here it calls out system developer and a system or network administrator. Then in FutureFeed, what we did is we harvested all those roles that were called out in this guide and we created a pre-built team for them. So here's that system developer and here's system and network administrator. So system and network administrator was mentioned under 79 requirements. These are the 79. Developers was mentioned under 35. So you could see there's that one for the limit of unsuccessful logon attempts. So this is really meant for like companies who are just getting started on working on implementing NIST 171. and they haven't even looked at the requirements and they don't know who should be working on what, well, they probably have someone performing system or network administrator duties, whether it be an external service provider or an internal team, or maybe just one guy that they have at the company there. So it's a quick way to build out some teams and get some responsibility assigned right off the bat. So you would create, let's say you would create that system system and network administrator team, you'd create it. Then you would scroll down, find the team here, and then add whoever from your client's company in there. And I guess if you guys are helping them, stand up their cloud environment, then you could probably be in there as well. But now Aaron, he's part of this system and network administrator, Aaron is, and now he's going to have those 79, 78, I forgot what the number is. Those 70-ish requirements are going to be assigned to him as responsible. And so when he logs into FutureFeed and goes to the individual responsibilities, he's going to see all those controls, 70 of them, 78, whatever it was, listed here. And now he knows that he needs to start reviewing those. And if they should be assigned to someone else, he'd just get them assigned to someone else. But at least it gets things moving, right? Like, hey, here's your portion of the controls to start reviewing. We also have like an HR pre-built team in there as well.
That is so useful.
Yeah. So that's populate. All right. So that's pretty much the people page. The one thing one tip I want to call out is that in FutureFeed, if you're assigning responsibility to someone, try to do it either to a role or a team. You could even, like, if you end up assigning responsibility to one person a lot, maybe just create them some sort of role title, like security analyst or support work, whatever you want. So that way, oh, that was scary. So that way, if they leave, whenever, people quit, you have personnel turnovers, like let's say incident response, the incident team lead here. In FutureFeed, if I assigned the IR requirements to Aaron directly, when Aaron leaves the company, then I have to log back into FutureFeed, figure out all those things that were assigned to Aaron, and then get them reassigned to whoever else. Versus if I assign the IR requirements to the incident team lead, Aaron leaves, all I got to do in here is change who's assigned it. And now when Cynthia logs in, she's going to see everything that Aaron was previously assigned and working on. Okay, so that's just to help with like managing the responsibility throughout this system life cycle or the life cycle of the contract, right?
Nice. Yeah.
All right, so tools and documents are the last 2 pages I'm going to go over, and they have the same look and feel. So I really am just going to spend more time on one than the other, but so here I'm in tools. What you're going to need to do in tools is have your client compile a listing of hardware and software and any other vendors, external service providers that they're working with, or there's third-party support personnel. So have them put together that listing, then they or you and whoever is doing the work will have to log into FutureFeed and start typing those in one at a time. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't have an import function. Maybe that will be a future release, but it's all manual entry right now. So to add an item, you would just hit the plus button, type of the mission. So let's say we're doing seam, and it's I don't know, name of a seam off right now. Seam, do you have a name of a seam for me? Sentinel, is that?
Yeah, I was say Sentinel.
Okay. So, and then just, is it on-prem or in the cloud or being provided and managed by a different service provider? So, and hit plus. So now I just created a seam inventory items. So then I have to go find it. Okay, here it is. So after they enter everything, the next step would then they go and open all of the inventory items up like this and fill out all this metadata as much as possible. Before we go over all that though, I want to show you, you got two areas. So here, active things, here's pending things. So, oops. Active is, it's already in use, it's already in production, they're already using it. Pending is things that the company is going to be acquiring and implementing in production. So here we're painting a picture that Nessus vulnerability scanner is going to be purchased in the future to help meet the vulnerability scanning requirements, but right now it's on our system poem because we're still acquiring that and we got to set it up and get people trained and all that. So when you create tools or things down here, it's going to put them on the system poem versus up here, it won't go on your poem. It's already in production. But if your client happens to put them in the wrong place, it's no big deal because when they open up the item right here, this active or pending, this is what it, so right now this is in production active. If I wanted to place it on my system poem for whatever reason, then I just mark it to pending. Okay. Document, same thing. So there's an
Okay.
active document. So these things are approved, they're being followed. Here's pending. These are documents that are in draft and being worked on. Same thing with
Cool.
documents over here. You just hit the plus, type it out. You do have to be in like the right area. So here I'm under working documents, so I can create any plans, policies, procedures. I can't, over here we have lists. If I create something here, now I can only create these. I'm not going to be able to create a policy. So you do have to be in like the right area to create entries.
Okay.
Um, all right, so probably the last important part is that whole, let's go over these. So your clients need to put together a list of the hardware, software, and then start entering them into FutureFeed, and then open up the inventory items and start filling out all of this data. As far as what technology to put in FutureFeed, me personally, I like to put everything into FutureFeed and really rely on the compliance tab over here to identify if that technology is in scope of the requirements, meaning it's one of the top 4 here, or it's out of scope. Now, the reason why I like to say add everything, and then for things that are out of scope, just make sure you categorize them properly as out of scope, is because in the overview area is where I would put notes of, out of scope, my rationale. I would put some notes on why I said something is out of scope. And I would potentially even look at providing some evidence that supports that determination, right? Because I'm sure you know this, but when something is out of scope, it needs to be logically and physically separated from what's in scope. So if you're thinking technology, I might need to show evidence that why something is out of scope. How is it logically separated? Maybe it's on a different VLAN, or we got some ACLs configured that are preventing traffic and communication between the assets, something like that. So we have clients that they just put what they know is going to be in scope of the requirements into FutureFeed, and they don't worry about, adding any of the other stuff. But as a service provider, you could really use this process to help your clients with that whole scoping effort. Maybe they still need to determine the stuff that's in scope and out of scope. And so, logging the things that are out of scope in FutureFeed will prevent you from forgetting about them. And, after your client gets this all implemented, they may be waiting months or a year to do an assessment. And when they go into that assessment, typically they talk about this, they will for sure talk about the assessment scope. But it also includes some conversation usually about, okay, well, what'd you say was in scope and what did you say was out of scope? Because they need to ensure that everything was scoped properly. And so you'll need to kind of speak to, or your clients are going to need to speak to about what was out of scope. And so having the information in here is going to, jog their memory, especially if it's been some time or maybe a new person's working on it, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's some really good points. So yeah.
Um, all right, so that's in the compliances where they categorize. Okay. Um, if you say something's a CUI asset, notice, let me click on CRMA. So right now I can't click on this CUI mark here. But if I want to make that association with a CUI, it has to be a CUI asset. So some little things that work that way, you'll have to kind of figure out as you go. Let's say that this seam was storing, processing, transmitting FCI. This is how you would document it. Yes, it's storing, processing, transmitting FCI. It's part of my level 1 environment too. Of course it wouldn't be because it's just a security protection asset. And what else? So connect, connect is a really important thing. So what you're doing here is, and I'm in an inventory item, a tool inventory item, IT asset inventory item, right? And so now why am I logging this? So here I'm Sentinel, audit logging, monitoring. I'm gonna want to connect this technology with the requirements that talk about audit logs and monitoring them and correlating them and all that stuff. So you can search by keywords. I would say monitor for communication text seems like an appropriate thing to tag for a seam. What else? We got analyze, I think is audit correlation. Okay, here's system audit logging. So what you're doing is you're essentially building your body of evidence. So you're identifying the evidence for those requirements. When you go into an assessment and you're talking about, and for your client, they're getting evaluated on 335 audit correlation, the assessor is going to say, okay, well, how are you doing audit correlation? What tools are you using? What processes are you using? And so they could say, we're using SEAM, and it's going to be found under that control. So if I go to my assess page and I go to 335, I scroll down under test, because that's where the tools show up. There's my Sentinel. So an assessor will see and be able to open that up and then see more metadata about that piece of technology, who's responsible for managing it. These are the people then they would probably interview when it came to Sentinel. Maybe if you had an external service provider performing and managing this tool or providing this tool, then under the customer responsibility matrix, you should see an associated CRM. Do we have one for, like, here's, let's say Summit 7 is managing it for them. Now, this listing of CRMs, you can add a new one right here. Or if you go into your documents, under reference documents, there's a CRM category. If you, like for your company, you probably going to have a CRM. And so Brillium would put their CRM in here. I would type out Brillium, but I'd probably spell it wrong. But
Oh, I still do.
you'd create an entry for your CRM. Okay, then you'd open it up and you would attach your guys' most current CRM here. And then you would go back to that tool, Sentinel, and find your CRM.
Okay.
Okay. So connect, that's what you're doing. So with security documentation, you would be connecting like let's say you're looking at a risk assessment policy document. Well, you're going to connect that to the risk assessment requirement. So you're building out that evidence for both like tools, technology, locations, and documentation. That's the connect. Task assignments, this is the last thing here, and I think we're good to go. So under task, let's go to documents. And what do we got in here that makes sense? I'll just do the clean desk policy. So you're going to create tasks for your clients, and your clients will also create tasks. But tasks, you would create tasks for like the initial implementation of something. So getting documents reviewed, getting them approved, implementing some software, configuring some assets, right? So the task related to that initial implementation of NIST 171, and then you're also going to create tasks that reoccur. So for like here, we have a patching policy. So let's say in my patching policy, it says that the company has a monthly meeting to talk about patch compliance. Okay. So in my tasks, then I'm going to create that monthly patch compliance meeting. I don't even know if that's a thing that people do, but maybe. Make it repeat monthly. Okay. And then assign it to the right IT person. Okay. And hit save. So now FutureFeed is gonna, every month, this task is gonna be triggered. Austin is who's it assigned to. Austin's gonna get an email notification and see in FutureFeed that he has a new task. And then he'll be able to complete that task, upload evidence into FutureFeed, and close out that task. So I would highly recommend using tasks for your clients, tasks associated with like initially filling out FutureFeed or what they got to do with documentation. Maybe you want them to provide you a hardware software listing. You can create a task related to that. So create tasks for that initial implementation, and then create tasks that reoccur throughout the year, so that way what has to happen continuously stays on track, and now you're completing that activity, or at least logging the completion of that activity in FutureFeed, so you have an audit trail for assessors. And let's say this monthly patch meeting, maybe if I was running the show, I would also require them to show me meeting notes, like monthly meeting notes, and I would require them to upload the monthly meeting notes into the evidence area. Okay.
Gotcha. So, Rachel,
Mhm.
unfortunately, I do have a 3 o'clock, but this has been amazing. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're
This has
welcome.
been very helpful, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. And we pretty much ended there. So the next session will be assess SSP and poems. But if you can sign up for any session that you'd like if you need to sit through it again. Also, if you log into FutureFeed, scroll to the bottom. We have this 15 minutes with FutureFeed session. It's
Okay.
30-minute meeting with me every Thursday. So that way, if you have questions along the way, just pop in, ask them, join the weeks that you have questions or you need help.
Hey, all right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yep. All right. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye. You too.